Hey there, welcome to part two, working with the tools. We're going to be picking up just where we left off in part one with all these other fun tools here. Let's just go ahead and delete all of our layers here that we created earlier. Shift click all of those layers and hit the delete key on your keyboard. It's going to delete them. Okay, now the fun stuff happens. We're getting into some really great tools here. Let's go ahead and create a new layer. I work in layers quite a bit, and I think it's a great way to work non-destructively. Very rarely do I ever touch my background layer. In fact, never. So let's go ahead and start off with our first tool. This is our first cluster, the Spot Healing Brush tool, Patch, Content Aware Move, and the Red Eye tool. Okay, I hope you guys don't need the Red Eye tool ever, because you can just have your light be off axis. But if you do need it, just you can click and drag within someone's eye. It's not going to be much use here because she does not have a red eye, but first, we're going to talk about the difference between the Spot Healing Brush tool and the Healing Brush tool. Basically, the Spot Healing Brush tool, let's zoom in to our image. Let's Command plus a couple times. All right, if you just try to do something on it on a new layer, it's not really going to do anything because we don't have sample all layers checked. So I'm going to just now have sample all layers checked, and we're going to do some spot healing on our skin. And for the most part, this tool does decently well. The one thing that I don't like about this tool is it's a little, they try to simplify it quite a bit, and it just chooses the point for you. Now, Lauren's got impeccable skin, so it's not, this is for retouching. It chooses your point for you. So if like you're doing something in the ear or something like that, there's a pretty big chance that it's just going to wind up looking pretty weird. Sorry, Lauren, that's really weird. All right, let's hit Command A, which selects everything, and then delete, which will delete whatever's on this layer. Now, we're going to click over here to our Healing Brush tool, which I prefer to the Spot Healing Brush tool because you have control over where it samples. The reason that's important is, especially with someone's skin, like it totally depends on what type of skin. A person's skin on their forehead is going to be different from the skin on their cheeks. It's going to be different from the skin on their necks. So if you sample a skin that is similar to the area that you want it to be, it's going to be a little more accurate. So let's just say we want to get rid of this little line there. So what we're going to do, make sure we're on our Healing Brush tool. Mode is normal. I always keep this on normal. And we want this to sample our current and below. So I'm going to sample right over here, Alt or Option to sample. So hold down Alt or Option, click on your point to sample, and then just paint right up here. And that's going to help make the skin that's up here closer to the skin that's down there. All right, effectively getting rid of that little line. And I'm sampling over and over again. So holding down Alt or Option, sample, and then paint over again. Some cases are going to need this more than others. Like I said, Lauren's skin happens to be great. I don't know what this is. I don't think it's defects. It's probably just light doing something weird. But I'm going to get rid of that by holding Alt or Option down here, painting over there, and you can see it's just kind of like blends in. You can also get rid of hard edges like this. Like there was a little bit of a hard edge there, and so just kind of painting this in, it's going to reduce a hard edge, which sometimes you want. If it's too much, hit the eraser tool and just erase that back away. All right, look better like that. All right, and the keyboard shortcut for the Healing Brush tool is J. So you can get rid of little areas like this, and it's let's just zoom in. Here we go. Not her skin. It works on not her skin too. Alt or Option, sample there, and then paint in right there. There we go, and we can see we can get rid of these little guys here. Very easy tool to use, very convenient. I use it on literally every single image I edit because it's just a great way to clean some things up. Okay, looking good. So this is our Healing Brush tool. The Patch tool is like a bigger version of the Healing Brush tool. So the Patch tool is really good when you need to remove a larger area. And let's just see if we can do something with this little, I think this is a flare, it's supposed to be there, but patch tool. Now, traditionally, you cannot patch on like a blank layer if there's nothing there. Okay, so you would have to create a stamp visible layer. Now they have added the addition of content aware patch, which you can do on a blank layer. It's something like that. There we go. And you'll get a result that looks like that. Not a perfect tool, but handy and relatively easy to use. If you guys are using something older than CS6, you maybe CS5. I don't think you'll have the content aware patch tool, but if you're if you are not using the content aware patch tool, not a big deal. Just create a new layer, and then we're going to make a stamp visible layer. And a stamp visible layer just takes a copy of everything you see and it puts it on a new layer. So to do that, go to Shift Option Command E, and that's going to make a stamp visible layer. Or you can go to Image, down to Apply Image, okay, and then just hit OK. And it's going to do basically the exact same thing. Okay, so now we can use the patch tool in the normal setting. So we'll just select around there and do that, and then it's going to patch in for you. You can see it's not looking as good, but you know, that's not the best use of a patch tool because we do have some borders. The best uses of the patch tool and the healing brush tool is where, like skin, like this area here, where we can, maybe she was wearing socks or something like that. It's got a little line there. You know, we're not trying to like get the border line there, right? So I would like drag it down, something like that, and then it's actually going to do quite well, you know. So we're working within just one area. Let's see another area. Like we could get rid of that thing pretty easy by selecting it out, clicking and dragging, and then letting go. A little bit of bird turd, click and drag, and let go. Pretty easy to do that sort of thing. I'm holding down the spacebar key now to move around my image. Like if we want to get rid of that line, click and drag and move over. You can still use the content aware. You know, just don't expect these tools to be miracle workers. Like get rid of that thing, and then there we go. Kind of like fills in some gaps for you there. Let's see, get rid of that little guy there, and then you just circle it. Let's see how it does with this. See, it did try to content aware, like it tried to make it look good, but it couldn't. So you want to drag it over to the area that's just going to help it look a little bit better. There we go. So you just circle the area you want to fix, and then you drag it out. So if we want to remove that little foot dimple, bonk, and drag it over there. And now, foot dimple removed. Very, very nice. Cool. That's a downside of working with a model with perfect skin is there's less to teach you. But something like this, actually, you know, that's nothing wrong. It's just a vein. We all have them. Maybe you don't want it to be so visible. So you just click and drag it, and now you don't see a vein. Pretty cool. So that's how the patch tool works. Content aware move tool. Now this is one of those fun ones. Golly, this is like the patch tool meets another tool. So it's going to move that there, and let's try to blend it in, and then, gosh, you know, I never use this tool ever, to be honest, because they've had a lot of these tools. All right, like her head. Gosh, Lord forgive me for this. I'm gonna try to move her head over there, and it's gonna try to replace her head with bushes, I think, and then put it over there and blend it in. Yeah, so that's the answer that it gave us. I mean, for just a computer program, not bad, but is this acceptable? Not really. So we're gonna undo that. It's just a tool that I won't ever use until it gets better, because it's just you know, it's just trying to do too much, I think. Yeah, it doesn't have any decision making. It just like grabs similar colors and shoves them in there. If you were doing something like on a beach, that'd be great. But in this with a lot of detail, not really that useful. So healing brush tool is probably, out of this bunch, I would say the healing brush tool is the most useful, followed by the patch tool. All right, very cool. So that's the healing brush tool. Let's go ahead and get back in here, and we'll just delete that layer. All right, look on that before and after. We'll just erase that little spot out because it didn't patch very well. Okay, so that's the healing brush tool. The next tool we're going to talk about is a clone stamp, and then the pattern stamp, which we're not going to cover today. It's a little more advanced, and I don't ever use it. So the main difference between the healing brush tool and the clone stamp tool is basically, let's just erase these guys. So that was like a E for the eraser tool is what I hit, by the way. A good area to show you guys the difference here. So the healing brush tool, you can sample an area, and then, so I'm sampling right over here, and then I'm going to paint over here, and when I let go, it's going to blend everything in. You can see it blends even the color. So I could even sample over here and paint in there, and when I let go, it's going to blend in the color, right? This clone stamp tool does not do that. It creates an exact duplicate. It's whatever's here is now going to be over there. And same Alt or Option to sample and then paint in. Sometimes you want the patch, too many tools. Sometimes you want the healing brush tool, and sometimes you want the clone stamp tool. Generally, when you're getting close to an edge, and by an edge I mean like the edge of her dress, you know, the edge of her leg, something like that, that's when you want to grab the clone stamp tool. Okay, and here's why. If I grab my healing brush tool and I sample, you know, this point over here and start painting the edge here, see how like weird and fuzzy and blendy that gets? Even if you get pretty close to an edge, it can really start to bleed, because it takes the texture from where you sample and the color from where you paint. So if you're just on like a, you know, area that doesn't have like a lot of borders or edges and things like that, the healing brush tool is really great because it's just gonna like blend everything for you, and you don't have to think, and that's really nice because I'm sure you have a lot of other things to think about in your life. And there we go. So that's why this tool is really great. So we'll just use it to kind of sample in here and, you know, paint in there and things like that. But if we did need to take care of something at an edge, let's figure out a way that we do. This little guy, that's just a little bit of fabric hanging over on the other side of her leg. I don't want that. So we're going to sample this point and paint over there, and then you can just get that. This is a perfect application for the clone stamp tool. So the clone stamp tool, you could sample her leg right there and then paint right over here, and it would just get rid of it. Now, you can't really see what you're doing with the clone stamp tool unless you hold down the Alt or the Option key is going to allow you to select. And then if you hold down the Shift key as well, check that out. It's going to give you a little preview there, and then you can actually see what you're about to do. And there we go. We just got rid of that. And because it creates an exact copy, it's not trying to blend anything in there. So it's the perfect tool to use whenever you're working with something like that. Let's see. Looking for another couple areas. Sorry, I'm like super zoomed into her legs here. It's kind of weird. Another couple of areas like this. If I did want to get rid of this, I'd probably use the clone stamp tool. So clone stamp here, and I could just, let's make our edge a little bit softer. You can right click and change your hardness. If you're on a Mac computer, you can hold down Control and Option, click and drag to the left and the right. It's going to make your brush larger and smaller. Up and down is going to make it harder and softer. Pretty cool. If you're on a PC, I believe it's Control and Alt and then right click. So we're just clone stamping out. You know, I'm going from the right side over to the left side. All right, and then basically just using a larger brush. Let's to kind of blend everything in there. All right, so there we go. We can just see it's blending in a bit better, and we can grab this area and we'll see like a little preview there. Cool, looks pretty good. I'm gonna grab this area, a little preview there as well. Oh, maybe we'll just grab this. Doing a relatively quick job of something that doesn't need to happen at all, but just showing you guys how, in this case, clone stamp tool would be just a little bit better. All right, you're gonna get like it's lighter there, darker there, and stuff like that. So, I'm gonna just come in here and kind of try to fix that. All right, to make this seamless, it's just gonna take a little bit longer, but that's pretty close. Well, not as good as I would have liked. All right, let's delete that layer. I'm gonna try it again. New layer. Let's try a combination. How's that? Of the healing brush tool, we'll sample over here and we'll paint over there, which is going to allow it to like get rid of that. But we're not gonna be able to do that up into the edge. So up until there, I think it's did a better job than just the clone stamp tool. Okay, but here on the bottom, healing brush tool is not going to really work because it's just going to make like a blurred mess of everything. So then we'll take the clone stamp tool, S for the clone stamp tool, and then we'll start painting this in here. All right, there we go, and that's a bit better of a job there. Perfect. Well, not perfect, but much better. All right, so there's a combination of those tools. I'm going to delete that because this is actually supposed to be there because it's part of a dress. So that's basically how the clone stamp tool is. It's an exact copy of what you see. So again, this area you'd want to use the patch or the healing brush tool. Sample this and just paint right over top of there. And you know, for something where you have an edge, that's when you want to use a clone stamp tool. Okay, cool. So that's our clone snap tool. The next tool we have is our brush tool. And there's quite a bit that goes on with our brush tool. This is one of the most powerful tools in all of Photoshop, I feel, anyway. And you can do quite a bit with it. Same keyboard shortcut to make it larger or smaller. So your brush tool, basically, you can paint whatever you want to. It's like a real brush on a canvas. If you hold down the Alt or the Option key, you can sample a color. So we'll just hold down Alt or Option. We'll create a new layer and then start painting around. Now we do have a lot of options when it comes to the brush. We can right click and we can change your size and your hardness. You also have a lot of custom brushes that are loaded within Photoshop. I'm going to show you guys how to adjust your settings for the brush even more, as well as make custom brushes yourself. So on our layer, we can just grab our brush tool and paint around. To get your brush menu that has a lot more options, I would recommend going to your window and then down to brush. And now we've got a lot of options here for our actual brush. We're going to just paint around here to show you guys what they do. Okay, so our brush tip shape, we're going to start off here. You can change your size. There we go. Pretty easy. Change your hardness and the spacing. This is how far apart these little guys are spaced. So now you can see there. Let's change our size. They're spaced a little bit farther apart. All right. There we go. Pretty cool. So let's undo that and bring our spacing back together. And now you can see they're looking like it's all the same. Okay, so that's our brush tip shape. You can also change the angle of your brush. If you don't want it to be round, well, you don't have it to be round as well. You can make this. You can make the shape of your brush really whatever you want to, and you can change your angle of your brush as well. So if you wanted to do something like that, like some calligraphy, like Aaron was here, ha ha ha, you could do that too, and that's really fun. All right, let's just keep playing around. So we've got our nice calligraphy brush. Let's click into our shape dynamics, and we have size jitter. I usually turn this. You can turn it up, and that's just going to like kind of create some edges. You can see there. Let's turn it up. The brush menu is great because you get a very nice preview of what you're supposed to be doing. So this will make it look like a little bit more like it was on watercolor paper or something like that. You can bring your minimum diameter down, which is going to allow you to create a very small point. Now, also keep in mind, guys, I am using a pressure-sensitive tablet. I'm using a Wacom Intuos 4 small pressure-sensitive tablet, and I use this on every Florent episode, and I've been using the same tablet for years. So it's, in my opinion, if you are serious about Photoshop, you need to run out and get a tablet like today, because it's a huge help. The reason why is I can press lightly, and it creates like a small, not very visible stroke, or I can press hard and it's going to create that, and I can go from light all the way to hard. There we go. I'm just going to undo all those. There we go. So I'll just from light all the way to hard, back to light in one stroke, and that's something you just simply cannot do with a brush, and it helps out not when you're just trying to like show off cool calligraphy, but when you're also trying to like fill in an area, you can go softer around the edges, harder here on the inside, and things like that. So it's a very, very useful thing to have, and you can see it in our recommended gear section on Fleur. Okay, so you can change your minimum diameter, like if you only want it to be thick, or you can come all the way down as well. You can do that too. Angle jitter is just gonna like jitter these things. So think of these as like a bunch of those little shapes that we made in the brush tip shape. And now they're just going to like jitter around. And your roundness jitter, you can make some more round and less round. Now the other interesting things you can do, or you can actually control your size jitter. I usually keep this on pen pressure, but you can have it be on fade too. So it's going to actually like fade away in the size. It's not fading very, very much. You can do, well, you just turn it off and it'll be the same size. There we go. Let's undo all those. All right, pen pressure. I'll show you there we go. Let's just get back to that. I'll show you a control in just a second that's more helpful. Okay, scattering. Let's click on that, and that's basically going to scatter these little guys all around the place. So if I bring the scattering up, you can see what it's doing. Now it's going to create this whenever I'm painting on my brush. It's going to create all those little dots just from one brush stroke. It'll take a little while to get it going there. All right, so you can scatter this as much as you want. You can bring your count up or down I would recommend keeping your count relatively low. That'll help your computer not flip out on you. All right. There we go. So you can do stuff like this. It can be very helpful creating raindrops and snow and things like that. I use custom brushes all the time with scattering. It's very, very cool. All right, we'll turn that off for now. Texture, you can add texture into your brush. I generally keep that off. I don't think it's, that helpful for the most time, especially with photo editing. We're not artistic painters here. We're just messing around in Photoshop. Dual brush will bring in properties from multiple brushes. Again, this is kind of way more complex than even I would ever use, so I don't use that much. Color dynamics, you can do like a foreground background jitter, so it's just gonna paint between, like if I press light, it's gonna be lighter. If I press dark, it's gonna be darker. Things like that. So you can definitely have some interesting effects with this. A hue jitter, like it's just going to change based on, each one of my brush strokes is going to be a slightly different hue now, which is kind of fun. But again, not really that helpful unless you're just trying to create like a funfetti party invitation, I guess. Saturation jitter, some of these are going to be more saturated and less saturated, and then you can just load in the whole gamut. So you just like paint with any possible color under the sun with every single brush stroke. But again, remind me when that's going to be helpful for actual photo editing. Not quite sure, but it kind of looks cool, so that's fun. All right, let's size that back there. Okay, and then transfer is nice. I usually do keep this checked on. And the reason is, let's hit Command A and hit Delete again to get rid of everything that's on the layer. Transfer is nice because I keep my flow jitter on to 0, but I keep my control to pen pressure. So if I don't press hard, I don't put a lot down. Like it shows up less visible. If I press hard, it shows up more visible. Okay. So with that unclicked, even if you can see it's just as visible when I'm small as when I paint a little bit larger. So with that checked on, it's not as visible if I don't press hard, and it becomes more opaque and then less opaque. So it's a nice addition to the brush. So let's say we find a brush that we like here. Let's just choose a nice color, Alt or Option, and clear colors, and we just say Aranese. Yeah, check out my amazing signature, everybody. Yeah. Okay, let's say we like it. All this other stuff right here, adding noise into the edges, wet edges, things like that, you are more than welcome to play around with. For photo editing, we've covered all the things that actually like you wind up using. Okay, let's just say we really like this brush. It's neat, it's fun. I really adore it, to be honest. And we want to save it. Okay, we just go over here and go to New Brush Preset, and we'll just call it Calig for short. All right, for calligraphy or whatever. Okay, so we've saved our brush preset. Now you can click over here in your brush presets and go all the way to the bottom, and you can find your calligraphy brush. So anytime you want to, you can get back to this brush, and you don't have to worry about, like, oh, I got to recreate all those settings again. You can just get right back to your really nice brush, your calligraphy brush. All right, so some really cool custom settings. I would recommend playing around. You can right click here and you can see the same settings, and here's our calligraphy brush right there. Calig. Very cool. You can still change the heart size if you want to do that. See, size is getting larger and larger. There we go. Pretty cool. And you can change the hardness or softness. So we can make a soft edge calligraphy brush, which, to be honest, looks totally weird, but I like it. Why not? All right, so let's delete that. So that's a lot of really cool things you can do with the brush. Now the next thing I want to show you, let's just get back to a regular brush here, is we're going to show you the difference between opacity and flow. Okay, so we're going to keep both at 100 right now, and I'll just create a couple lines and then do like that. Okay, they're all like 100% visible. If I go over it, I'm just like, yep, putting down a lot. Now let's bring our opacity down to 50%. You can do so by hitting the number 5 on your keyboard. Okay, as I paint around, it's going to put down 50% opacity, but you can see I'm going over the same place over and over again. It's not putting down anything more. you have to let go your brush. And then when you let it go, it's going to then add to that, and it's going to do it over and over again. But you have to let go of your brush every time. Okay, let's bring our opacity back to our 100, and now our flow to 50% by hitting Shift 5. Okay, and you can see already there's a difference. If you paint over an area and then continue to go over it, let's just make our brush a little bit softer. Alright, so if you paint over an area and continue to go over that area, it's going to build up. It works a lot more like, you know, a natural medium. So where if you don't paint much on an area, not much shows up, but if you continue to paint over and over again, it'll just continue to add more and more. It's really nice when you have a low, you know, keep your flow about 20%. You can just kind of like paint in this area, like, okay. For layer masks, it's really nice. You can just like, you know, add more there, and then go up here and press hard there. So you can create a very nice, a lot more natural of a effect using flow than you can with opacity. And you know, you can do all that without lifting up your brush once, you know, just go over it more often. Very cool. So that's the difference between opacity and flow and all the custom brushes that you can use. All right, here we have, I believe this is called the history brush tool. Let's turn this off and on. What's around there? I've never used this tool. I don't even know what it does. Sorry. But I'll tell you what. Chances are if I've never used the tool, it's not entirely necessary because I've used Photoshop a lot. But let's see what I think it might do. Let's just paint there, and then I'll go to the history brush tool and I'll just paint over this area. It's basically like doing an undo wherever I paint, which is, yeah, that's what that does. Cool. It goes back in my history. And then the art history brush tool, well, gosh, I just don't like that at all. Yeah, I have no idea what it's doing, and I just know that I don't like it. This is not very applicable. Maybe it is, I don't know. Someone's out there that's probably going to make a fortune off doing this on like wedding pictures. They're like, oh my god, they're so artistic. And this guy's going to be like, whoa, I'm really taking these people for a ride right now, and I'm loving it. It is looking kind of artistic, I'll give it that. It's pretty artsy. It's pretty weird. Alright, cool, so that's that brush. Play around with it, please. Have just the time of your life. Alright. Let's get rid of that. Okay, next we have our eraser tool. So let's grab a brush tool and we'll paint, paint some stuff on there. And you can go to the eraser tool and erase it away. Pretty cool. Pretty self-explanatory. I don't use the eraser tool much, and the reason is I use layer masks for the most part, which we're going to get to in a couple sections from now. But if you do need to just erase something away and you know you never want it back, you can use the eraser tool to get it away. And then you get something really cool that looks like that. Very nice. All right. The next we have our gradient tool. Let's just zoom out here, and we can see. Let's just hit Command A, deselect that. Our gradient tool. So G for the gradient tool. You can choose a few different gradients. We have a linear, radial, and a couple others that I never use. If I don't ever use something, you can probably assume that you won't use it much either, just because I've done this a lot. Okay, so the gradient tool. Let's just click up here on our gradient editor, and we have a few different presets and a few different options. I can click here. This is going to go to a foreground to background gradient. So if I hit OK, I'm going to click and drag from the left to the right, and we're going to go from this color to that one, foreground color to background color. And go from the other way, up, down, we just do whatever we want. A radial gradient is going to do the same thing, but it's going to be round instead. This guy does that, and this is, yeah, cool. So I find the radial gradient and the linear gradient to be most helpful. All right, let's just clear all that stuff there. Great, so that is the foreground to background gradient. A lot of the time I have this set to foreground to transparent. And what that's going to do is it's going to allow you to see what's going on in your image and just put some like orange in there, which, you know, in that case kind of looks cool actually. It matches her dress color, by golly. Let's grab a green color from our wooded area there and grab our gradient tool and kind of gradient that in. Like maybe there was a leaf covering part of the shutter. I don't know. So that's just going to gradient in the foreground color to transparent. Okay. You have all these other fun things you can do. You know, if you want to do that, have at it. And you can change your colors here as well. Like if you want to click here, go to your color, and then you can actually change it to be whatever color you want. So now we can have it green to orange, which right in the middle looks a lot like, oh, I don't know. Just not good. It's weird. All right, let's hit undo. Yeah. Actually, I kind of like it. You know, I said it was weird, but I take it back. I'm sorry, gradient. I like you. I think you're nice. All right. And you can even do radial gradients like that too. It's kind of fun. Okay, so gradient tool. I use it quite a bit with layer masks, but again, you know, back to most of the time I'm on foreground to transparent when you just want to like bring a little bit of color in on a gradient mask or a layer mask, and I'll show you guys layer masks in just a little bit. Okay, very cool. Let's go. Next, we have our blur tool. And let's just create a duplicate of our background by hitting Command J. We'll zoom in, and we can just blur some things here. Let's bring our sample size or our strength up. There we go. And like blur an eyeball if you wanted to do that. Not a tool that I use very much. The sharpen tool, I've used this a few times, and sometimes it can be okay, especially if you just want to like sharpen like a specific area, like sharpen her lip up a little bit, things like that. See the before and after with that. Not a bad tool, but I tend to use a different tool to do my sharpening. Smudge is interesting because it will allow you to push things around. I wish, now smudge is not a bad tool, but it's not. Let's turn on this finger painting, which just kind of allows you to like go everywhere you want. I wish it was like it kept a little bit more of an edge. So like when I use my smudge tool here, my edges all get messed up. You can see it there. So that's one of the reasons I don't use it. It's just kind of makes a muck out of everything, which, you know, we're just opposed to all that muckiness, mucking around. Okay, and next we have, let's click over here, our dodge tool, which is going to, back from the film days, you guys around there, dodging and burning, make things a little bit brighter if you dodge. And then your burn tool, make things a little bit darker if you burn. There we go, just like this. Oh God, I'm so sorry there. It just looks horrible on your face. I'm not doing this justice. All right, we have many episodes on dodging and burning on Phlearn. Please feel free to go into the tags section above every episode and click on dodging and burning, or just type in dodge and burn in the search tool on the top right. Many episodes on that. I'll show you how to do it properly. We don't need to take 20 minutes to do that now. And the sponge tool, which I'm guessing just makes people look bad. I think that's why this tool was invented. So I've never used it. I guess it's sponge. That's kind of cool. Mode desaturates. Okay. Well, let's bring our flow up. I don't know. This kind of like sucks color out of here. Let's turn it back to saturate. And it kind of adds color. You know what? The jury's not out on this one. I might actually like this tool. If it wasn't, yeah. I don't know. You know? All right. I've never used it before. This is literally the first time that I've used it. But if we wanted to saturate some like shadow areas like that, like bring a little more color into her face, especially around the edge of those shadow areas, I might actually like this tool. All right, cool. Well, maybe we're going to use it. I don't know. Bring some saturation there into her. All right, well, cool. There are other ways to add saturation, but hey, why not? I'll play around with this tool. There's our before and the after with that. Just a little bit more color, especially, you know, in part of her face. I do think that helped out. Oh, yeah. Bring that into her. Something unexpected is happening. I actually really like the sponge tool right now. Didn't expect that to happen today. Wow, okay, cool. Yes, everybody use the sponge tool. It's great. You can desaturate or saturate things. All right, cool. Well, that's fun. I did not expect that at all. Let's just delete that layer, and then we'll play around with it a little bit more. All right, and I'm sure you guys have noticed by now that with every with every tool, there are all these options here on the top that you can choose from. And the sponge tool has, you can add new sponges and things like that as well, and change your settings. And you can also see like just the tools that you'd like to see as well there. So very, very cool. All right, that's the end of section 2, and our next section we're going to be covering all these tools down here. Thanks so much, guys, and go Sponge Tool.